When people imagine resistance, they often think of clashes, crowds, or street battles. But in Pakistan's largest province, Balochistan, resistance has taken a quieter and more devastating form. It has emerged from families searching for sons who never came home. It has emerged from women who were never part of politics, but who refused to be silent. And at the center of this movement is a young doctor named Mahrang Baloch, whose calm persistence has become one of the most significant nonviolent challenges to state repression in Pakistan today. This movement is commonly known as the Movement for Baloch Missing Persons or Habdo Tehreek. Its goal is stark and simple: to demand the safe return of missing persons or at least acknowledgement, investigation, and due process. Like many nonviolent struggles around the world, it shows how moral power can emerge from people with no weapons and no institutional authority. Balochistan is Pakistan's largest province by area, but also one of the least developed. For decades, it has witnessed military operations, separatist movements, and deep mistrust between locals and the state. Amid this tension, families say thousands of relatives have been forcibly disappeared. These cases rarely reach courts. There are no charges, no trials, and often no official documentation, only families waiting for answers. The politics of invisibility is central. A forced disappearance does two things at once: it erases the individual and it erases the story. So silence becomes the tool of repression. So, Mahrang Baloch was 16 when her father, Dr. Dean Muhammad, was taken during a hospital shift. He never returned. Instead of withdrawing into private grief, she stepped into the public struggle. Her education took place not only in classrooms, but in protest camps, marches, and sit ins led mostly by women. These were women who had never imagined themselves as activists until loss pushed them into the front lines. Her leadership illustrates something Selena Gallo Cruz identifies in her research. When women who are not traditionally political step into public protest, their visibility carries moral authority. States find it harder to delegitimize them, and repression against them often backfires. And this is exactly what happened with Mahrukh. The Haq Do Tehreek has always been nonviolent. Its power comes from persistence, visibility, and storytelling, not confrontation. This reflects Dean Sharp's idea that states depend on public obedience for power. When people refuse to cooperate with silence, the state's narrative begins to crack. Erica Chenoweth's research also helps us understand this movement. Nonviolent struggles attract broader participation because they feel accessible, moral, and safe. This movement used obstructive and constructive nonviolent actions. Obstructive actions included long marches from Quetta to Karachi and Islamabad, sit ins blocking major roads, refusal to dismantle protest camps, public testimony, and press conferences. On the other hand, constructive actions were documenting cases, creating networks among affected families, building information desks at protest camps, sharing testimonies with human rights groups. These actions do not attack the state directly, they attack the silence that protects the state. Women led this movement for a reason. In Baloch society, as in many others, mothers carry the emotional and moral weight of the family. When men disappear, women step into the public space out of necessity. Their presence disrupts the conventional assumptions about protest. Gallo Cruz argues that women's public action initially lowers the state's threat perception, but once the movement becomes effective, repression intensifies. And this pattern is clear in Mahrang's activism. The more visible she became, the more restrictions and intimidations she encountered. Yet each attempt to silence her created backlash because it validated the movement's claim. This is the mechanism of backfire. Repression against morally grounded actors strengthened rather than weakened their message. In late 2023, Mahrang led a long march from Quetta to Islamabad. The march included elderly women, children, and families carrying photos of their missing loved ones. When they arrived in Islamabad, they were met with police violence. Women were dragged on the ground, families were arrested. The images spread instantly across social media, creating a national moral shock. For a moment, the country could no longer ignore Balochistan's wounds. The movement achieved national visibility, parliamentary debates, international human rights attention, and shifting public sympathy. Although it did not end disappearances, but it did end the silence. This movement offers key lessons drawn from civil resistance scholarship. Power with and power within matter more than power over, as families gained strength from each other, not from domination. Nonviolent discipline produces legitimacy, as calm persistence makes state violence look disproportionate and unjustified. Visibility shifts political power, as a single photograph of grief can destabilize a dormant narrative. Women's leadership reframes conflict, as mothers talking about missing children cannot easily be dismissed as political extremists. Constructive and obstructive actions reinforce each other. As documentation builds truth, protests amplify that truth. This movement is not in isolation. It resonates with other struggles around the world, like Mothers of the Plaza de Mayo in Argentina, the Black Sash movement in South Africa, the Comfort Women protests in Korea, or the Tamil Mothers movement in Sri Lanka. In all these cases, women used moral visibility to confront repression. And Mahrang Baloch stands firmly in this tradition. Her movement is unfinished and its outcome is uncertain, but it has already revealed something very important. Sometimes the most powerful form of resistance is refusing to stop asking a question the state cannot answer.